Hi everyone. Thank you for the setup day London for having me today. And also not to forget all of you that joined my session today. Today I will talk about why the setup for all. So we go straight. So this is our agenda. Um, so by the way, do you see my slide?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, I just making sure. All right. I continue. So first of all, I will go to the introduction, and then I will talk about the setup and shift left approach definition. Later that I will talk about what the DevSecOps practice and approaches. Also some tool chain of DevSecOps, and then example of DevSecOps CI/CD. Lastly, I will get you on how you can start your journey. Okay. So let's start talk about who am I. So I was a developer and then I joined IT operation sometime and then finally become a DevOps engineer or and also a DevOps ambassador and also certified for DevSecOps professional. Lastly, I'm also the founder of DevOps for me. It's a startup company that educate and also offer DevOps service. And you also can contact me via Twitter, LinkedIn, and personal blog here. All right. So first of all, like since you say in his book, the art of war yourself. So you need to know your enemy and yourself. So this is also applied to our security and vulnerability issue. You need to know what's your security gap and how the setup can benefit to your organization. So let's go to the pitfall. So this is common pitfall in any organization. The security and compliance issue can categorize by three category. First is company. So first they fail to recognize the cyber security basic, like they really rely on the single security layer, like only password, something like that. And then they failing to encrypted sensitive data, which is open for invitation for attackers. The second point is lack of cybersecurity policy. Cyber criminal is not only targeting financial sector right now. They attack everyone. So the security standard not always in company. So the third point is not enough IT security management. So most of the critical cybersecurity alerts may get missed, and then the successful attack may not be eliminated in correct manner. So I think the fourth one, during this COVID pandemic, most of organization are being forced to do remote work. There's a numerous security implication as a result. For example, some may not set up a VPN for their people that prevent the employee computer direct connect to the domain control, and then meaning the periodic password reset could not be completed. So the second category is app developer. So most developer is using open source or open source library. So everyone know that. And then not this open or dependency created equally. Some of them have vulnerability from the start until now. So second, most of the people doesn't have a basic cybersecurity and always put security measure either for their internal security team or external team. Then the most of the time, sometimes trouble happen in their production. They are clueless and then they know what to do next on the security issue. The last category will be the app security and info security themselves. So in DevOps team or Agile team, most of them is not involved in the planning. Uh, in DevOps approach, initially they don't include security into the plan. So that's also a drawback of DevOps. And then the dev app set always involved in the last of the process, and then whenever team have a security issue. So I go next. So now we're looking at the traditional security test approach. You always done between release, deploy, or even in production itself. So hence it's also a pitfall. So one of the pitfall is a code review or penetration test is conducted find the security flaw always in the last process of the development or production environment. Developer might redo the code if they found out there's be vulnerability or security issue in the code. And then sometimes security issue founded by their external or the client. So the question now, so do we expect all developer do a security test and do not make mistake? I think the obvious answer for that is no, right? So nowadays, I think we are lucky enough. We found the solution for the problem that I mentioned earlier. So we can use a shift left and DevSecOps approach. So now, what is a shift left? It's actually the philosophy of DevSecOps. It began security testing early in the software development lifecycle by creating security planning, testing, and monitor each phase of the DevOps pipeline. So shifting left lets us dealing with security issue early and often. So you can shifting left also reduce the risk and the cost of fixing security bugs or security issue. Now DevSecOps, what is DevSecOps? So in the modern security model that provide everyone in the team responsible for security implement in their application from the planning, design, develop, QA or testing to the release in the production environment. So it's more like a team or organization effort. It's not only person, automated or autonomous security. We can say it's a security at scale. So what's the role of DevSecOps? Whenever you have a small team, there's no auditor on your team, we can use the DevSecOps. Uh, and then it also used to audit and implement the security control in your DevOps CI/CD pipeline. So based on this year Sonatype survey record on the DevSecOps implementation, I think it seems like not many know what's the benefit of DevSecOps approaches for the organization. So let's see what's the benefit of DevSecOps. So this is a comparison between traditional development challenge and then what the benefit DevSecOps can bring. So first, on the traditional, we have a repetitive and manual process, but on the DevSecOps, we have an automated configuration and software development. And the second point, development require a days or week in traditional way, but in DevSecOps, we just taken a minutes or second. So in traditional, we don't have a repeatable process like script, auto script, but in modern or DevSecOps approach, we have a continuous and repeatable process. So it's easy for everyone. So in traditional, always have a human intervention that causes inconsistency. So with DevSecOps, consistent with automation script, and then we can use example like Ansible or Terraform. In traditional day, we always have a downtime for deployment. So nowadays, we have a minimum downtime with DevSecOps. So previously, the technical requirement for traditional development always easier, but now it's more harder, but it's aligned to the security needed. So the team always work in silo from the traditional development, but in DevSecOps, it's always continuous collaboration between all the team members. So in the traditional development, we don't have a secure code or early security test in development. So whenever we shifting to left in the setup, we always doing security testing from starting until the end of the process. So now let's look the setup opportunity and risk. So the opportunity we DevSecOps can give you a fast and repeatability process, like we automate the testing, security enforcement, and continuous learning. Then it also give you the agility on integrate with agile development and reduce the security earlier and often. So on the risk of the setup, the tool change. So I think for the most tool in the market, it's not you can use at the first time. You need to have the learning curve to do integrate with your current CI/CD. So the second point, the risk of the cell is false positive handling. So most of the tool, it doesn't have false positive handling on your code or your that relate to your environment. So you need to have the experiment on the correct tool. The last risk of the cell is system architecture. Probably if you want to implement or adopt the setup CI/CD pipeline, you might to change your architecture or your project goal. So here the set of component that we can say the set of DNA. So it's combination culture, process, and tool. So on the culture, we can have the trust culture, collaboration, transparency, communication, and initiatives on responsibility alignment. And also we have a governance on the security. So on the practice, we have continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, continuous monitoring, and then configuration management. So the last component is a tool. So we can have tool in every stages like building, test, deploy, monitor, and security or logging. Now there's a 5 practice for or area that in DevSecOps that you can practice. So first practice is people. So to start your DevSecOps journey, you have to convince your senior management. So to or you create a security champion or personnel which is play a vital role to make everyone streamline with the shared goal and on the security path. So the second practice will be process. So in general, different team within an organization execute various tasks. So with DevSecOps, everyone work commonly upon agreed process and execute them to strengthen and extend our security development. So the third practice will be shift left. So as I mentioned earlier, which is this approach give you advantage of detecting your security issue and fit them faster. The third practice is automation. So I think this is the crucial practice that in the set of culture because it's can give you a speed of security with your product delivery in your CI/CD environment. So you can do a security automation, and then this is a must in your DevSecOps CI/CD. So choosing and continuing learning with the right security automation tool is the key to success in your organization. So the last but not least, fifth practice is practice a secure coding. So due to development team, IT ops and security work in silo, hence the organization need to invest some sending them to training to upskill them, and then with training, everyone will implement and secure code in their works. So here some of the approach in DevSecOps that you can apply. So on the plus side, you can apply a pre-commit hook ID, and then it will scan all the credential and sensitive data in development machine before commit or push to the source code management. On the source code tool, there's a secret management. So it will scan all the token password in your code repository. So in the preview, you can apply software component analysis or SCA. So it will scan you all the dependency or library that you use in the code. And also you can apply a static analysis security test or SAS. We also know as a whiteboard security test, and it will scan through your code and it also represent how the attacker penetrate in the inside your environment. So the next is a post building. So in the post building stage, you can have a dynamic analysis security or DAS. It's also known as a black box security test. So it's also represent how outside attacker attack your environment. So as a artifact management, we have a uh, artifact security scan. It's used to detect security vulnerability and lessons in your artifact component or your binary. So on the production environment, you can use compliant as a code. Like we using Ansible, or we can use inspect by chef that support all OS. It will do a server hardening on your environment. The last, you can have alert and monitor. The tool that use you get alert on the security issue detected in your environment. So this is an example of DevSecOps tool of threat. So on the security, you have the SonarQube, white source, white zap, chef, and SSL and MN. So on this source code, you have the popular one is GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and etc. So on the CI, you can have Jenkins, Azure DevOps, TeamCity, or Bamboo. So this is the example that you can use. Same goes to the infrastructure as a code, like Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. For the logging and monitoring, you can use LK Stack or Splunk. For the release management, we can have a community, OpenShift, and many more. For the container technology, you can use either Docker or Mesos. So some of the example here, if you're using SonarQube, uh, you can do a security test on developer commit to source code. So on the white source, it's used to test, meaning to scan your open source dependency in your code that come up with it also come up with the vulnerability report that you can know before you deploy into your environment. So OFZ is used to identify the vulnerability in application while it's being deployed. So it's useful in penetration tests. So I think probably you already use a cloud service like AWS and Azure. So do you know they already have a DevSecOps tool in place? Some of them, the service you can use, like if you want to start your DevSecOps pipeline, you can use a AWS code pipeline. In Azure, we have a Azure DevOps like build and release CI/CD pipeline. For the infra as a code, uh, we have provision. You can use a cloud formation. On the Azure automation, we have like Azure resource management or ARM. On the security area, on AWS you already have AWS Inspector, AWS Guard Duty, and AWS CloudWatch. On the side Azure, we have a security center, Azure AD, Azure Application Insight. So I think you can check out them later in your cloud provider website or your console. So this is an example DevSecOps CI pipeline approach. So it start with agile team development team commit the code to the source code. So Talisman, one of the tool that pre-hook or pre-commit scan tool, it will validate the outgoing chain set for the thing that looks suspicious, like authorization token, private key. Once it's okay, your code will be pushed into the GitHub. So when there's a PR or pull request created in your source code or GitHub, the Sonar Cloud will trigger and do the analysis on your PR. So Sonar Cloud will come up with the code analysis such as security like bug, vulnerability, code coverage, and duplication on your code. Once the PR done, the GitHub will trigger the auto build to the your continuous integration CI. We can use a Jenkins, Azure DevOps, Circle CI, or any CI tool that available for you. Once uh, we build, we can do the software component analysis or SEA or static analysis security. Such, for example, if you're using Python, there's a tool called Safety that scan open source or dependency. Once we created the artifact, we can use JFrog Artifactory to scan through all layer of Docker image or your binary. So once all the security tests done in CI, and our artifact is secure, we are ready for the CD. So on the CD, we can use Ansible for provisioning our resource, and also using Ansible to run a server hardening before we deploy uh, our code. So on the deployment tool like Azure DevOps or our container construction tool, it will deploy a new artifact or image to your environment. So on after that, we can use a dynamic code analysis test or DAS every time that we have a new update, or it will report to our security and vulnerability management system like Defect Dojo or Archery. Same goes to the smoke test and hardening test. We also we upload report to our security and vulnerability management system. Once our update in production, we will monitor it using ALK stack component. So now, this is some tip that how can you start your DevSecOps journey. So I always advise everyone start with a small project, and then you keep it simple possible to avoid the burnout, because during choosing the right tool for your security test, you might have a stressful on to searching the correct one for your environment. So the second step will be you need to have a chain management. So to increase and performance, to increase pace and performance by encouraging everyone to make change and then decide whether the change is good or bad for you. So you also the third point, you also need to have a compliant monitoring. So you need to be prepared to inspect at any time. For example, so in being in continuous state of compliance, including obtaining proof of compliance with GDPR, CPI, and etc. So the fourth step, you need to have a threat modeling, because threat modeling is useful for identify the potential emerging threats with each code update and see how can they respond quickly on that. The fifth step will be vulnerability assessment. So you need to have that to identify the new vulnerability with code analysis, and then analyze how quickly they can be respond and patch. Last but not least, I think this quite important, do a security training, because everyone need to upskill, mostly with management and developer need to upskill, and then or probably security champion need to do the internal training to give them to give more security awareness on how can we apply that setup to their organization. So that's come down to my conclusion. So uh, we need to shift left and implement the setup. So I think everyone in the organization must make an effort to shift left to the setup culture and methodology, and come up with a multidisciplinary security team. So agile plus DevSecOps is a must by feeding agile software development with security planning and user story for each sprint. So automation is always the key, because on if we have automation, security and testing can reduce the delivery time and improve quality security, then eliminate human error. Okay. Do you have a question?
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let me see in the chat. Are there any questions from anyone? Looking at a Twitch channel. While we wait until people have typed up their questions, you're right with the automation thing. Basically, the whole conclusion is just kind of been the red thread around the conversation. But to be fair, like I think it was Vandana was asking the question like, oh well, if we automate things, then will I be automated out of a job? It's also very much a people thing, obviously. Any other questions from anyone else? Mark, do you have any questions? Well, I think that's it. That you've been very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you
Right.
so much. Maybe there will be
You,
some people on the
yeah.
speaker Q&A channel. So if you yeah, that would be
Sure.
great. Thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of the sessions.
All right. Thank you for having me today.
Not a problem. All right.